One of my earliest experiences that has to do with where we are now in satsang in 2016, mid-October, had to do with very early on playing music, playing drums, and beginning to see what got in the way of creativity, and even having a sense of creativity as a force that I needed to be dealing with. As a musician, as an improvising jazz drummer, that seems like the highest form of currency or exchange. And so,
almost highest, but
okay.
yeah, on the way to highest, yeah. Music is a step on the path.
As is creativity, or
Creativity is another step on the path. Music being what you can hear and respond to, and creativity being what you might be forced to create, whether you like to or not.
Yeah. And so the progression for me and to today was basically the question, what is creativity? How am I getting in its way? Am I doing it? And
Who's doing it if you're not?
yes.
So is that a question? Oh, that was your process.
That was a sort of process or path, and here people have mentioned that maybe you're not a guru, you're just a form of a creative genius. And I guess to me, and probably because of our relationship, I would expect, complete access to or channeling of a creative force.
You're here because you've seen a manifestation of it in the music.
Yeah.
So you're drawn here by that. So you weren't really drawn here by philosophic, let's say, lure, as much as by a demonstration of the music and the way it should be played.
Yeah, for sure.
And you're still here. And the music may still have a very powerful say in your being here, regardless of what the girlfriends say, as to how they value this or not. It's not about that, it's about what you hear. So they can't hear it. They can't hear what you hear. And so we understand that. So there's a barrier there, sound barrier. And if they could just penetrate that sound barrier and understand what it is, they'd hear it in the word here, they'd hear it in the music, and say, now we understand. It's the same thing. So.
It seems like, what the truth here, for me, is a form of creative force. It's not an understanding. It's not a sound. It's that everything is of this particular pure creative force.
Why here? That's your big question. Is that their question? Why Newburgh? Why New York?
Yeah.
Well, that's just the way it is. That's how it shows up. It's the way it is. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
The universe is the universe. I mean, why? That's not going to get you anywhere. It's without question, it is what it is. So when your ears are in the resonance of a certain reality, whether it's a jazz reality or not, see, you may need more, not less. You may need more. So you've come here because there's more, not less. Because if there was less, you wouldn't be here. Right. You would have packed up your bags a long time ago. Understood. But there's more here. How much more? Good question. Maybe enough to keep you here for a while. And we're not just talking about the music, because we are now talking about intelligence, which runs the music, manifests through the music and the writings and everything else. Okay. Come in.
Yeah. And at this point, I'm not surprised by any of its manifestations, be they just psychic, already knowing, an ability to bring up a problem I didn't even know existed and deal with it, to, hear a tempo before anybody else does in a recording that, none of the musicians knew they were going to play it, but it happened. I mean, they're just things that, I guess this force it describes itself in so many different ways that it can't be related to just music or just writing or just dharma or just driving a car. It seems like you're illustrating that creativity is actually the essence of what's going on.
Well, here we call it the fire here. See, I would say this is the fire and the process of the burn. And it's a very subtle process. Yeah, most of the musicians we know here all get it. See, they're very clear about it. This has to burn, man. We don't mean, politically. We mean that creatively. And that it is a process. It's a dissolutional process. Process of burning, psychic burning, letting go.
And it doesn't have anything to do with self particularly, although...
No, it affects yourself. Yeah, puts yourself to task. Right? You can fry yourself. Can crucify yourself, for sure.
Yeah. Or others.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it has nothing to do with others, harming anybody or anything like that. We can say then, in a manner of speaking in general terms, it's spirit. See? Spirit here. The spirit here is like everywhere, but everyone has their own experience of the spirit. They interpret it differently. Some people think it's religious spirit. Here it's sound. Sound. I mean, it's music and it's word. Sound, what you can hear. And what you can hear that is illuminating and guiding and directing and empowering. And it's key to very high level musicians. And they recognize it, which means that it has its place, it has its audience. It might just be a few who can hear that way. It's not better, it just is what it is. It's not worse.
I've heard people describe that quality of your music as a force or a luminousness. I've perceived it as as both of those things, as a certain type of cutting. It's like you can reach in and through the other. I think most direct perception I've had of this force that you're talking about is that it doesn't come from you as a person. Its source is actually a point of nothingness. It's as if it's boiling out of nowhere.
Could be nowhere. Nowhere sounds good.
Yeah.
So then it's a matter of being nowhere.
And to surrender to that, either while playing or while listening, is to actually engage that.
Nothing.
Yeah.
So then it's a question of who's willing to be that. All right, who can be that? And if that's what it is, then everybody should be that. Comment? And everyone being that.
Yeah.
And generating similar levels of phenomena.
Yeah. So we've talked about the limitation being self and being ignorance and being confusion. All of these things. Is it also a need? So like, not everybody shares the same need to create the same, say, situation.
Is that a
Create a
question?
situation.
Is that an observation? Or?
Well, it is. It's a question. Why? Well, you posed the question. Why isn't everybody this force
Well,
manifest?
right. Good question. You have an answer for it, or?
They are and they aren't. That would be my
That's
attempt.
the first order of answering here.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's school. We're back to school. Classroom. It is and it isn't. It all starts there. Does that help anybody, or what? Does that satisfy the curiosity of your friends?
Probably not. That's just a frustrating answer because it's, it's too simple. No meat.
Well, in the schools of realization, they say, well, what it is all pervasive space. So then I'm saying, who's willing to be the space itself? Shouldn't everybody be willing to be the space they already are or actually is? And if they could be that, wouldn't that be the end of all the problems? That have no basis for suffering anything whatsoever. And everybody be rushing to them for access to what it is. Or for answers relative to what it is.
And what is the R? The yes, the everybody already is this side of the answer.
Well, we can say already that all beings are already God too. All beings are already, Buddha, say, awakened. But it's just this. If we see that, we're just talking. We may as well be in the bar. Wolfing down scotch shots. Yeah. But oh God, anyway, let's get drunk and help me out. And God, help me to my car. Drive me home. Yeah. Not exactly. See, so we're talking about, the potential is everywhere, but the manifestation of what it is in some cases is not the same everywhere. It's not, what do they call that? Equal. The need for you to come here may be not for the same reasons you're with other people. To say with the musicians, what do they come here for? If music is everywhere and in everyone, what are they coming here for this for? Because there's something else going on here. We don't know what, but we know there's something else going on here. That is a flavor or a taste or an intensity or a style or presence or whatever that draws certain people here to connect with it. To resonate with it, to extend their own purposes. Understood. Comment?
Yeah.
And so in the idea of the spiritual, then we're all channels of it. Relative to our openness and understanding of what it is that we're open to, or need to be open to or surrendered to, which is a more frightening word for egos. But as I said earlier, everybody's already surrendered completely, lock, stock, and barrel to life, at the mercy of everything. Not real. Say, oh, was it surrender to who, to what? As if they're not surrendered yet. Like they're holding back something. Or they're keeping a little bit of themselves somewhere else.
Yeah.
Saving it for the right somebody. Come on.
Mm-hmm. That doesn't seem like a particularly creative force.
What is it?
Well, I guess that would be the opposite, the contraction.
Well, you want to make sure these are not the people you want to hang out with. Unless you have to. And then you have to deal with that. Oh, I have to. Wow, okay. He has to. He's only doing it because he has to. But he doesn't want to. Actually. Comment? And that would be like having to play a certain kind of music in a club. Well, you know that's what they need to hear, so you do it. So. And you let it be.
Seems like despite what we think, and this is probably getting back to the Buddhist, we are all Buddha already.
Well, that's spiritualist, Buddhist, yogic, it's understood. Universal realization of the total. Right, we're all part of the total. We are the total, we're all part of the total.
We have our own, and you've said it as river of blood to deal with. We are created of that as well.
Earth energy. Time energy. Space energy. Energy. Matter energy. And then spirit energy. Common sense. Radical native common sense.
Which is its own type of creative force. Each one of those is, well, they are created. But is that the same as creative?
Created can be creative. You're created, you can be creative.
And also not? Can I be not
You
creative?
probably aren't creative, and you need to be more creative. Exactly. Right. The question is, to what degree does one need to be creative to balance out their debts, their psychic and karmic debts to the planet, thereby clearing the way to, what is that, the ineffable.
Is there a distinction between Dharma and creativity?
No. Dharma is creativity. Creativity is Dharma. It's law. The universe is creativity, and the universe is Dharma. The universe is Buddha. It is awake, self-aware. Everything is awake, as much as it can be awake, relative to being self-aware and vulnerable to the universe by element, by survival, by karma.
This is easier, but I think, well, it would be easier to say there's a difference between music and creativity. One applies creativity to music. Because there's so much...
Well, music is a form of creativity. It's an effect, so it is created. Right. We're talking about hearing then. Don't call it music, but how about hearing? See? Yeah. Hearing and sensing. As in the case of the deaf, who have to pick up at their level of sensitivity. See? Or the blind, who have to pick up at super levels of sensitivity. They have to hear your thoughts. So we're talking then about the psychic and the spiritual. See, it's all part of this thing called the creative. See? And of course we're talking relative to certain dynamics per, let's say, creature, and per individual within the same species, the same family, the uniqueness of every second per individual, experiencing their own phenomena in the universe, relative to their location, their state, their condition, their density, their lightness, vibratory resonance with this, that, whatever, high and low, dark and luminous, or up into the realms of subtle light and subtle sound, silence and being. Silence and sound, being and non-being. And that's, resonances. A note, guitar note of being or non-being. So, 2 notes. Being, non-being. Resonating what? Whose being? As what? For what? We're We're talking about meaning then, symbolic meaning, interpretation,
Hmm.
knowing.
Yeah. This, I think what you just said clarified a lot for me all of a sudden. That materially things can be very similar, but what they resonate as and from is, that's the active ingredient.
You mean the catastrophic point?
Yeah.
Yeah. On that note, it's, people can't know and they cannot be known. As they can know and as others can know, they cannot know and others cannot know. Because your experience is uniquely as an individual, and by individual mean whole, complete. Universe.
You're not talking about any boundaries, any limitations to that.
Complete
Individual.
universe, right. In the infinitely multi-universes of itself. A complete universe. So, gone universe. Yeah. No secret. Yeah. Completely blown out and still going. Still
But it doesn't.
rushing to nowhere. To its oblivion. Right. Rushing right back into its own womb. Right. And it's full circle. Right.
Does that preclude, say, like, thinking about lunch?
Should it? Death. Everything else.
Yeah. The mental puzzle that represents seems to me less useful than the resonance that that I'm feeling. The obviousness of the statement beyond that it is an idea that is challenging for the mind.
So be it. Or unchallenging. To some. Or useless to others. Radically so. Absurd. So you're familiar with the process?
I am familiar with the music. Familiar.
Yeah, family.
Yeah.
Musical family.
Yeah. And familiar with a personal process relative to musical training as well, which stands often as contrast to what we're talking about. So that provides even more of a rich perspective.
Could be more rich. I don't know.
Well,
Could be.
yeah,
It might also get in the way.
it often does.
So the academic approach to it is already a burden in itself for too many people who want to get beyond that. So, when you're employed to utilize the burden for what it's worth, it's great. You get money back. You get a salary. You get pennies.
Yeah.
See, for having taken on the burden. But then to get beyond that is a whole other process. Now that I know, I realize that I don't know, and I want to not know beyond what I know.
Mm. Mm-hmm.
Because you hear other people who are so far beyond knowing anything about it, and part of the fluency of what it is from, let's say, a subtler level of consciousness. You say, no, that's what I want. See, that's where I want to be. So, by expectation. See. Desire, maybe ambition. But at least you're in the family. You're familiar. That's the important thing. It doesn't matter what part you're in. You say, no, you're in the family. The family of sound and music. Come in. And then the creative thing is whether it fits or works or not. It's not creative to be anybody's problem, and it's not creative to be anybody's solution. It just is that way. In other words, it's an impersonal, let's say, phenomenon.
Yeah, a certain sensitivity to music and a familiarity with the Dharma has well, it's been very useful because problems, say patterns, negative patterns, show up in both for me, and they may manifest differently, they may manifest the same way, but to see very directly, one, it's the same problem, and two, that this creativity that we're talking about, your sacred presence as such deals as easily in one arena as another. And
it's a kind of like a genetic advantage. That would bring fairness into what it is. It's a genetic advantage. And so that's going back to native roots, and each one of us are part of a certain kind of native rooting and uprooting. So that when you hear a level of development, as in the case of the music here, you know it, you hear it, you know it, you feel it. It's close to you, it's inside you. You say that's true. Whereas some of your friends wouldn't say it's true at all for them. And they would wonder why it could be true for you, because you don't seem to be like that person. You look so much better, and you're so much smarter, so much whiter. Yeah, and agreeable to people. And yet you're in agreement with what's happening here. So this is part of the beauty and the mystery of the process. Because this is close to the native here. In my word, the native. Because I'm drum first. Always with the drum, Dhamma drum. I didn't know it in those terms when I was a kid, but that's all it ever is. So it doesn't matter what I knew or didn't know as a kid. The drums were Lord to me. See, they were the vibration. They were the healing. They were the deliverance. See, they were already heaven. They were already the divine. There's nowhere else to go. And in fact, there is nowhere else to go, even now. So it depends on what you know, what you're familiar with, and what your background is, what your basis is, and how close you are to, let's say, the native in music. The music in the native. So whether you go the classical route, or you go a folk route, or whatever the route might be, you have to know the native in the music, and the music in the native. So that there's some heart resonance somewhere in that mix of words and realities or issues, ideas. So you feel that what you're doing is closeness, intimate closeness with the heart. The ground, earth ground, Mother Earth. Something like that, no? Huda.
I've come to know, or I think maybe think about creativity as just simply me not being in the way of it, and the way that you just described, heart familiarity, and the way you just described drums.
If you're close to that, then there's only happiness and no complications.
Yeah.
And no strange relations.
It's
no dubious relations. So when it is that way, there's nothing dubious.
Yeah. I think that I would modify my statement to just remove self. That's not in the conversation though. It's as if creativity knows no self and no other. It cares not for anybody's problems, though it is them.
Or for the fabrications of other beings that have nothing to do with the reality of simplification in the moment. Well, basically simple moment.
There are other, say, practices and schools of thought and dharmas around enlightenment and around, say, more physical practices. Why music? Why sound?
Well, because it's what we're made of. The raw vibrations, impulse, living impulse, right? Heartbeat, brainwave, earth, water, fire, wind. Sun, space. Here, now, being. When you stop listening with the physical ear, you hear nothing but the din of the universe of sound, vibration, livingness. It's called living space. You hear it without ears. You can take your ears off, yeah. You're still going to hear it. Just as your hands feel it. You don't need ears down here. They feel it. The whole body is living it.
What is hue?
Hue is exhalation. It is the exhaled breath. The tone of the exhale breath. Right. Hue, the sound of the living. Pure living, source of the living, Hue, original breath, primordial breath, Hue, the all-powerful Hue, the breath of God, let's say, Hue, say, the universe. Release, liberation, Hue, right? Right. The sound of liberation. Gone. Hue, the sound of gone. Right. The good and gone. Gone into hue. Aum Mane Padma Hue.
Om Mane Padma Hue.
Come in.
Sound described as such, as you just described it. Well, that description gives your music perhaps a different context. If as a listener one realizes that this consciousness that can describe sound as the universe itself, also plays these notes. Maybe that says something about these notes. Yeah. it's something that, like through the music and through the Dharma, for me has been a 7-year opening to process. And it continues. But
I like the but. However,
no, it does. It continues. It's real and vivid and liberating, and incredibly powerful. It's empowering and humbling, and has nothing to do with either of those words.
any words has nothing to do with any words, right?
I mean,
Except the one that embraces the reality, which is silence.
yeah. The process of waking up to and as silence, which is beyond any idea I ever had of it going into it, and will probably continue to defy any idea I have of it now in the future. It's like you said, the silence is godlike. It is God.
What's that? It is mother, source. Without gender. Genderless source. Yeah, just heart source. No gender, just heart. Heart gender.
Yeah. And to my myself, my ego, it's it's stunning. It is unbelievably beautiful. And
but not for your girlfriends, but for you. See, right? It's for you. See?
yeah.
They may have their time in the future, see? Where their resonance enables them to feel the way you have felt here. See? And this is part of your journey, see, to realization. See? And they have their own journeys to their own ends. See? Their means and their ends. One can hope they come to the peace, the great peace. We hope all beings come to the great peace. Sooner than later, before too long. Yeah. May all beings be happy. May all beings be healed. And may all beings be liberated. Phew.